Recording in progress.
Thank you. Welcome to Abolitionist Visions and Intersections. I know you've probably heard this several times in the last 2 days, but I'm going to repeat it for those of you who are new, and welcome everyone. A summit hosted by the American Library Association Social Responsibilities Roundtable, or SRRT. SRRT believes that libraries and librarians must center social responsibility by recognizing and helping to solve social problems and inequities to work for the common good. My name is Julianne Winkelstein. My pronouns are she and her, and I am currently stably housed. I am joined by Rebecca Black and Rachel Rosekind. For technical things, if you want to enable captions, you may have to click on the more at the bottom of the screen and then click on show captions. Our session today is going to be recorded, as you can see, and the recording will be available via the SRRT website by early April. Please keep your cameras and mics off unless you are a presenter. And please be respectful and extend care and compassion to yourself and to others. This includes using person-first language when posing questions or sharing information in the chat. And please refrain from using dehumanizing language such as prisoner or convict or ex-con, and instead use language which emphasizes the personhood of these populations, such as incarcerated person, justice-involved individual, or justice-impacted person, for example. I kind of issue with that. Maybe injustice-involved person, individual would be more appropriate. Please use the, right? Yeah, I don't know. Please use the Q&A to pose questions and reserve chat to relay any technical issues, resource sharing, share outs, or appreciation for our panelists. We hope to have time for the Q&A and after all our presentations have concluded. I just want to say that we have to end right on the hour because the next thing is going to be a video, and we want to make sure everything is going smoothly. So that's at 4 p.m. Central Time is when we'll be ending. So please, presenters, be aware of your time so we have time for everyone and a few minutes for Q&A at the end. With 3 separate presentations, I'm thinking 15 minutes per presentation rather than per person. And then we'll have time for added comments and Q&A when we're all done. And thanks for watching the clock and doing that. As I introduce speakers, I'm going to offer a brief bio, but just know that the full bios can be found on the SRRT website. So this session, as you know, focuses on public libraries, partnerships, and policies. Our first presenter is Lisa Thompson. And Lisa will be talking about reaching the unreached. Let's talk about how you can partner with your local drug court and what it means to your library, community, and the participants. And a brief bio of Lisa. Lisa Thompson has been the assistant branch manager at the Montgomery Floyd Regional Library System for almost 4 years. In that time, she's built many community partnerships, including working with her local drug court. Community is key in her one-stoplight town, and her library is also one of the first in Virginia to put in a community fridge. So thank you, Lisa. And if you'd like to go ahead, starting, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here talking about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to just talk briefly about my experience with partnering with our local drug court. I began thinking about it in 2020. I had previously worked part-time at a restaurant here in my little town with a woman who was going through drug court. She was in active recovery. And at one point, she made a comment to me that I had always treated her like a human being. And that really struck me, the fact that I don't think I treated her any differently than anyone else I encountered in my daily life. I enjoyed her a lot and we became friends, but that always stuck with me. And when I started thinking about our local drug court, I started researching online, and I found that Blount County, and I don't think I say that correctly, I apologize if anybody's from there, Tennessee, their library had partnered with their local recovery court. Ours is called drug court here at this time. We are trying to get it changed to recovery court. And so I reached out to them just to see what their experiences were. And they were so wonderful. They had online curriculum that they sent to me. They told me all about their program. And I was just really eager to get going with our drug court because I thought that our library could bring a lot of resources to the folks there, the participants. And so it took me about a year of me reaching out to the case managers to get in touch then with the judge, and get all of the paperwork in line and just letting them kind of know what I thought I wanted to do. And around November of 2021, I actually got invited to go to drug court and talk about what I thought the library could bring to these folks. So I got to go into the courtroom, and that was very nerve-wracking. One, because I was really excited about the program. I really hoped they would be as excited as I was. And two, because I was going in front of the judge and all of the folks that are there helping these people. And I told them everything I thought we could do for them. And the judge was very quiet. And when I finished, he said, "I think this is a fantastic idea." And I just thought, we got it. Let's do this. So then the work started. What are we going to do? Well, I knew that one, I wanted them, all the participants, to feel comfortable coming in the library. I did a lot of research. Things I found were sometimes people maybe felt that they weren't as educated as people that are working at the library. They didn't feel that they were welcome. They didn't feel that they were part of the community because they were in active recovery. It's a hard place to be in. So the first time I got to meet with everybody, I made packets for them and talked about all the resources that I could connect them with and that I wanted them to come to the library. And so that was my first start. I do want to say to everyone, if you are going to embark on something like this, be patient. Trust is an issue. These are people who have been in the system and maybe not have always had the best experiences in the system, in their towns. We have a tiny town. Everyone knows everyone. So a lot of times I think they think that everyone knows all of their experiences. I do not usually. But they can come with a lot of ideas, and there can be trust issues, but that can be built over time. So we started working, and I would go see them. We would, there was a woman who had been buying food once a month. They meet twice a month. We would take one big bag of food over to them. But what I want to tell you is, when you start working with your community, partnerships are so important. So I'm on the board for the Literacy Volunteers of New River Valley. They just changed their name to Literacy NRV. And I wanted to do financial literacy classes. So I took it to the judge. He thought it was a great idea. And we had, I think, 8 participants for 8 weeks came to the library. And they learned everything from how to write a check, how to open a savings account. I mean, things that maybe we think we learned when we were 18, but things that maybe they had not had the home life, the experiences, the life experiences to have done those things. So we started at the ground and built it up. And at the end of that 8-week period, they got a certificate of graduation. And those hours that they spent with us also counted towards their hours that they have to put in for drug court. So that was definitely a win-win. Another partnership that has just really blossomed in the last couple of weeks, like was mentioned before, we put in one of the first fridges in a library in Virginia. If I'm wrong on that, I'm so sorry. I've researched. I haven't found anybody that was there before us. In the first year, we gave out almost 20,000 pounds, or roughly 20,000 pounds of food. But because of that partnership with our local food bank, they wrote a grant specifically for the drug court participants. And beginning last week, that grant went into effect. So rather than 1 bag of food a month, they got 2 giant bags of food, bags of fresh fruit, bags of produce. It was amazing. One thing I do want to say in my experience, about 8 months ago, I was allowed access to go to the actual drug court twice a month. So I'm not on the drug court team, so I don't have any decision-making input with, the folks that are there, but I am allowed to sit in the courtroom twice a month, and I get to see the participants. They check in with the judge, who is a very kind individual. If they're doing great, that's awesome. He talks to them about what's going well. Sometimes people slide back into use, and he talks to them about what's causing that. And a lot of times it is money issues. They have to go to another small town about 30 miles from us for some of their classes. As you know, everything is on the rise as far as money. Everything costs more. And so we're looking at gas prices. Some people don't have reliable transportation. And what I see is money issues that are so stressful that people fall back into use. And so what can I do? How do I help with this? Well, one thing I was able to do, I was able to get one of their classes that they usually drive 30 minutes for to come to the library. And now it meets almost every Tuesday of the month. They'll be meeting tonight. And so folks can come here for those classes. We can give them access to food, but they also know that I am someone they can trust. Last year, one of the women that I've gotten to know asked me, she had slid back into use, and she came to me and she said, will you be my peer support? And I said, of course. And this is someone that, you know, when we first got to talking, I could see that the wall was up, and that's understandable. And now, you know, we've really reached a point where we're friends. And if something is bothering her, she reaches out. But I know if she's getting quiet, and I haven't talked to her in a few days, if we're busy, I reach out. And it has just blossomed. Something else I do want to add, and I am so sorry, I forgot to put my timer on. So if I'm getting close, please let me know. I apologize. Just partnerships. I want to tell you how important they are. Even if you think that something's not going to come from it, don't let that stop you. Reach out, talk to everyone. Let everyone know your face, no matter what you're doing. If you're trying to help others, let people know who you are. I have been able, through my work with our local historical society, to get some of our participants amazing opportunities to fulfill their community service hours. And they have a lot of service hours that they need to document. And these are folks in the historical society that believe in these people. And they are, you know, really giving them opportunities to learn skills that they can take with them and carry with them. So that has really been a win-win. I always like to say, and I know it sounds cheesy, that it takes a village, but I don't actually know what else to do at this point. We all need help. Everyone needs someone. And someone once said, you can't hold an umbrella over the whole world. But what I like to think is if we all hold our individual umbrellas up and we gather closer together, that we can really make a difference. And so for me, working with the drug court participants in my tiny town, I can see that those differences, small to begin with, are snowballing and changing. And these are people that are part of our community, as you know. And, you know, someone said to me once, why did it happen to me and not you? Why did my use become so overpowering? And, you know, we've talked about upbringings. I don't know who's had a perfect childhood, but some folks, our paths are different. And that doesn't mean good or bad. It's just how we proceed, and we have to help each other. So that's kind of what I've done. I wanted to talk about partnerships. I wanted to talk about how you can change people's lives. And I just wanted to say one thing also, document your successes, even if they're tiny. Yes, exactly. Stronger together. Document your successes, document things that you feel didn't go just as you had planned. Because all of those little bits, sometimes we forget everything that we've done. I was trying to look back, and it's a lot. But if we write it all down, we can keep adding to it. And also, if there are grant opportunities for you in the work that you're doing, as you document yourself and what's going on, these will all come into play. So write everything down, and give your participants time, give everybody time. Trust is hard, change is hard. So I don't know. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know how long I've been talking.
Hi, sorry, I had,
Oh, hi, Julie.
yeah, sorry, tape, anyway.
That's okay.
We'll do that, we're gonna do the Q&A at the end.
Okay, sorry.
And you have 5 more minutes if you want to talk. You only
Oh,
for 10 minutes.
let's see.
If you have something else you wanted to bring up, that would be.
Dun, dun, dun. I think I kind of just rolled it all in there together. I had quite a list in front of me. But I think I
All right.
did it.
Okay, good. Okay. All right.
Where do I document successes? I have a planner and I write things down. Sometimes if I'm working with other partners, we Google Doc, so we can add to it together.
Great. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
move on and then we'll go back. Yeah, we'll take the Q&A at the end.
Okay.
So many people. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
They just keep rolling in. All right, our next presenters are Nick Demske, Diego Rodriguez, Dant'e, Cottingham. And oh, I just wanted to mention it's Blount County. Just wanted, in case you were wondering about that. I lived in Knox County, and when I first came there, I also thought it was Blount County or whatever. Yeah, and I had to have somebody correct me and say no.
I knew I was saying it wrong. Blunt. Thank you.
But you're welcome. Anyway, Dant'e Cottingham and Brittany Lee, and they will talk about what kind of extremists will we be, how Racine Public Library became the first to host a participatory defense hub. And I'm going to give a brief bio, but if there's any corrections on my pronunciations of anybody's name, I would really appreciate being told. I should have checked in advance. So Nick Demske is the interim library director at the Racine Public Library, where he has worked for 17 years. He's also finishing his third term in an elected role as county supervisor of Racine's first district. And as I mentioned before, there are longer bios of them if you go to the website. Next is Dant'e. Dant'e, can you just tell me how to pronounce your last name?
No problem. Cottingham. Cottingham, kind of like Nottingham in the Peter Pan, Nottingham,
Right.
Cottingham.
All right. I wasn't sure if I was with like swallow the last part of it, Cottingham like that. It was Cottingham. Okay.
No, you got it. That's good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So Dant'e Cottingham is 46, is a Racine native. At the age of 17, he was waived into the adult courts and sentenced to life in prison. After serving 27 years, he was released just 23 months ago. He is currently the co-director of Soul, Sustaining Our Leaders, where he helps lead several programs, including the Joshua Glover Justice Fund, a bail fund in Racine, and the Racine Participatory Defense Hub. He's a fierce criminal and social justice reform advocate who is dedicated to using his experience for the benefit of others. Brittany Lee, let's see if I got it. Am I getting all the people here? Yes. Okay. Is that right? Sorry, my notes are all.
You got it right.
Got it right? Okay, right. Great. Thank you. Sorry. I have lots of notes here. Okay. Brittany Lee is the Empathy Network Manager for Dream.org, bringing leaders together across the country and developing trainings alongside her team to transform the criminal legal system through policy changes both locally, statewide, and federally. Her interest in the legal system and advocating for others has led to her being a core member of the Racine Participatory Defense Hub, the first of its kind in Wisconsin. So I'm going to turn it all over to the three of you, and I look forward to what you have to tell us.
Thank you so much, Julianne. I'll be very quick. I thought I was going to have to read bios. I don't have to now, which I'm excited about. I really mostly just want to get out of the way to have the three awesome, brilliant organizers that we have with us share their experiences of PD Hub. I'll just say really quickly. So again, my name's Nick Demske, he, him pronouns. I'm the interim director at the Racine Public Library, and I've gotten to help build the Racine Participatory Defense Hub, which is the first participatory defense hub in the state of Wisconsin, and also the first that we're aware of that's housed at a library anywhere in the country. There's at least
Nick,
over.
Wait, I forgot to read Diego Rodriguez's bio. So do you want to read it or should I read it? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Yeah, I can do that really quickly. He'll be our first to speak, so I'll tee him off with that.
All right. So and Diego, I could totally apologize. I've got my notes all over the place. So anyway, go ahead, Nick.
Diego's a really mean guy, so he's going to be really upset with you, Julie. Yeah, so really quickly, I'll just say So the title of this brief talk, what kind of extremists will we be? I always say the public library is the most radical institution in the United States of America. And that can be true and can be not true depending on the public library that you're at, right? So the quote is a reference to a Dr. King quote in his letter from Birmingham jail. He says, the question is not, he's being accused of being an extremist by other faith leaders, and that's basically what the whole letter is response to. But he eventually says, the question isn't whether or not we'll be extremists, but what kind of extremists will we be? Will we be extremists for the status quo, or will we be extremists for the perpetuation of justice? And kind of goes on in that vein. That's certainly a question that libraries are asking themselves every day, every year, every generation. And I'm really honored to get to do the work that I'm getting to do with the good extremists that are in the room with me today. So we're going to have one person talk about what is a participatory defense hub, one person talk about what has the experience been in Racine with the Racine Hub, and one person talk about what should people, especially library professionals, think about if they want to start or support a hub in their own community. So with that, I do get to introduce the good homie Diego Rodriguez. Diego Rodriguez is a directly impacted individual with firsthand experience of how to succeed despite our current system. Currently, he sits on the board of Sustaining Our Leaders, or SOUL, an organization dedicated to supporting the directly impacted. He also is a core team member of the Racine Participatory Defense Hub, playing a critical role in humanizing, supporting, and connecting with individuals and loved ones as they navigate the criminal legal system. I'm just going to say one last thing that's not in his bio. I actually met Diego years ago, like two roles prior to the role that I'm in at the library, when I was a community resources librarian and I was doing prison Unreached at one of the men's prison in this county. And he connected then. And when he got out, he reconnected, and he's just proven to be an incredible leader out here. We're very lucky to have him in the community. So take it away, Brother Diego.
Hey guys, Julie, no worries about it. I liked when Nick introduced me more, so worked out. So I want to talk a little bit about what a participatory defense hub is. It's a big, long word, participatory, but it's important because participatory defense is a community organizing model that focuses on the directly impacted individual taking the lead and the charge in their own defense, right? So we use it in the context of the criminal legal system, but this model can be replicated and used when it comes to health justice or environmental justice in different ways. At the Racine Participatory Defense Hub, we focus on guiding loved ones and directly impacted individuals, helping guide them navigate the criminal legal system here in Racine. And we do that in three ways. We empathize, humanize, and organize. What that looks like is a lot of different things, but I think it's important, and I'll go briefly over how we do that. I think I'll start with humanize. Oftentimes, as you guys know, we are just that 5-minute interaction with the police, which is often sometimes our worst behavior or at our worst moment in our life. Now that 5-minute interaction comes and rooted in everything else, your life history, your socioeconomic status, maybe you belong to a marginalized group, and all of those interactions compile together for that 5 minutes of police contact. And that's all the judge gets. That's all the DA gets. They don't get any other of that. So it's important for us to humanize this person and to fill in the gaps and to talk about their work in the community, or to talk about their past and their history and how it impacted their behavior. One of the main avenues we do that is through a process called a socio-bio packet, where we could get letters from loved ones or different records of based on like certificates or classes that they've taken, therapies or things like that. And we kind of make like a motion, right? And that's submitted to the judge and the DA for them to kind of get a bigger picture of this person to take into account at sentencing. That is an important piece of what we do, but I always like to add this disclaimer. So often are the people that come into contact with the criminal legal system, they do not have a good everything else, right? And it's important that we understand that and acknowledge that. So often do a lot of these people that come in have existing criminal records or have done a long time in prison and have gotten out and have been harassed again by the system. So it's important that we try to humanize, but sometimes the humanizing isn't effective in certain cases. And that's where I think the second two parts come in, the empathizing and the organizing, that make it so much more impactful. Empathizing comes into a role because we almost are like a support group for their families. And we are able there to listen, to chat with people, just to say, hey, you have the floor for 10 minutes, get everything you want to get out of your system. And a lot of times it's anger at the system, there's fear, there's frustration, there's anxiety, there's hopelessness. And all of us as a core team, as people who I think most of our core team have been directly impacted, others are system impacted, right? Or their loved ones have been impacted by the system. So we know it, and we're all proof that growth and whatnot are possible. I think that's the most powerful point of the Participatory Defense Hub, is that level of empathy that we can offer people. So then lastly, the organized portion. This is, I think, what gets more people excited about the work of the PD Hub is the organizing around it. We are basically a funnel of information, of data, of firsthand accounts of the issues that are going on in the Racine County court system in Racine, Wisconsin. So there we are able to pick up on patterns through talking to people and understanding their stories, and we can start putting those patterns and say, hey, this is really weird. Why is this judge giving everybody a hard time? Or why are we constantly charging bail jumpings in the ridiculous rate they do? Or hey, why do we have a shortage of public defenders? And then it allows us to organize around these pillars and say, all right, let's pick a campaign and let's focus on that and let's push on this and let's do what we need to do to fight against that. And I think that is what interested me mostly in part of this work, is having lived a life where I am part of the system and have been impacted in a negative way at times. I've been able to find, power and excitement to actively work in this space. But also, I think what holds me in there is the empathy. And I think sometimes that's it's not like lauded well, it's not one of the glorious jobs of this work that we do as activists or radicals or whatever. But the empathy is the reason that we fight for social change. It's the reason that we organize. And if I can do that in that small little community room at the Racine Public Library, I'm already doing the work, and that's the reward of it. So that is essentially an overview of what Participatory Defense Hub is and what it is that we do specifically in Racine. Do you want me to hand it over to Brittany, or do you want to hand it over to Brittany? Brittany is going to talk about what she's going to talk about.
Hey, so I'm going to talk about what the experience has been like so far. So it has been really interesting. We've been going for a couple months now, and I think one of the main things we've noticed is it's kind of shifted. In originally, I think what we thought the hub would look like, mainly because we deal with a lot of people who have already been through the justice system. So because of that, it's been really helpful for us to have actually a larger team than what they originally asked us to do, which was somewhere around like 3 to 4 people as core team members. And we actually have somewhere between, I think, 10 to 12. But what that's allowed us to do is have a variety of experiences from people who are impacted by the system, whether it be people on the registry, whether it be violent offenses, whether it be drug use, whether it be people who've done county time in jail, or whether it be people who've done prison supervision. So we have had a lot of different experts to the table, and it's allowed us to really just have, and on top of that, we have core team members that haven't themselves been through the system, but have had and assisted family members, spouses, or significant others, children through the system. So we have a wide variety of experience across the table, which has been really helpful as different like conversations have come up. One of, I think, the biggest things we've noticed is a lot of people just lack the understanding of how the system works or how to interact with their lawyer, if they have one. So we have that huge problem in Wisconsin. So we've been having to help people navigate the resources around that. So that's been one of the biggest things about having a library. And having at the libraries, there's just like a wealth of resources and knowledge across the board of what we can offer people. We've been meeting every week. We meet for 2 hours. We provide, I wouldn't say a full meal, but I would say enough for you to like get by until you want to go get more food later. But what that's done is has also brought people who are in the library who are like, what are you guys doing over here, to come in and ask us, because we are pretty consistently there. It's the same location. We're in a very visible room in the library, so people can actually see us. We're not like closed behind walls. I would say one of the other big experiences we've had has been, it's been varying of whether or not people show up. We've had a lovely older woman whose son is incarcerated right now, who has shown up every week. I think Jay kind of touched on that, like people who use this for support. And she has been, just comes and sits with us every week. And then we have other people who come, who we talk about their case, not necessarily the details, but like different ways they can navigate it. We've helped a lot in how to help people with understanding the things their lawyers are saying. We've noticed that that's been one of the, big disconnects with people who are going through the system is like, what is my lawyer actually telling me? And are they being honest? And do they care about me? Because sometimes people think they're being railroaded, and we've been able to help them be like, you're not. What your lawyer is trying to say is this, and that's been really helpful. Or, hey, that's a weird thing that your lawyer would say. Let's see how we can support you and getting you connected with the public defender's office, or we can figure out a different way to navigate the conversation. But it's been great to be able to offer people hope in a lot of ways, or just different ways out. I think for a lot of people going through the system, you're freaking out. So we've been able to help people slow down, especially family members, and help also family members not hurt their loved ones by trying to help. I think a lot of the time people have really good intentions, but we've been able to provide just different alternatives. An example being like, hey, your loved one's incarcerated, but like, let's get them, figure out you can get them some books. Like, they're not offering programming, like here's 5 different books that they could read that they could use at their next hearing, to help them show that they're trying to progress and move along. So it's been a really great experience. It's also been tough. Sometimes it's really hard when people start sharing their cases, and we have to, Diego has been great at facilitating and telling people like, thanks, but let's change the conversation. And I think the other biggest thing that we've noticed is, as we've been trying to figure out what issue we want to form a campaign around, the more people that have showed up, it's allowed us to really see what's going on in Racine. So we're not just like making a campaign out of things that we're interested in or what we think is happening. We actually have the data to be like, hey, people are like consistently coming to us with like multiple bail counts, or we're noticing that a lot of people are having multiple charges when it doesn't seem like it accounts for that. So I will pass it over to Dant'e to share with us how to get started.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Brittany. Hello, everybody. As someone who was involved in the hub in its early stages, I recommend the following actions for those interested in starting and or supporting a participatory defense hub. So I broke them up in 7 parts. Number 1, research and understand the principles and practices of the Participatory Defense Hub. Familiarize yourself with the core concepts and values of empowering families and communities to advocate for their loved ones in the criminal justice system. I want to just reiterate that before I move on, because it's kind of important to the concepts, the idea of the PDN Hub. It's empowering families and communities, not doing the work for them, but empowering them to do the work for themselves and empowering the community to get involved. 2, build partnerships. Collaborate with local community organizers, local organizations, legal professionals, social justice advocates, and directly impacted individuals to establish a strong network of support for the Participatory Defense Hub. See, look, I've been saying it for a long time, and I still mess up that first word. Building partnership with key stakeholders, thus creating a core team, will enhance the effectiveness and the reach of the initiative. Provide training and resources. Offer training sessions, workshops, and resources to educate community members on the principles and practices of participatory defense. Empower individuals with the knowledge and the skills they need to actively participate in the defense of their loved ones and engage in advocacy efforts. Number 4, create a supportive environment. Foster a supportive, inclusive environment within the Participatory Defense Hub, where families and communities feel empowered to take on the role of organizers and agents of change. Encourage collaboration, communication, and mutual support among participants. Number 5, promote community engagement. Engage with the broader community through outreach events, informational sessions, and partnerships with local media outlets. Raise awareness about the impact of mass incarceration and the role that families and communities can play in advocating for systemic change. Number 6, advocate for policy change. Advocate for policy change to the local, state, and national levels to address the root causes of mass incarceration and promote equity and justice within the criminal justice system. Mobilize community members to participate in advocacy campaigns and initiatives. And number 7, evaluate and adapt. Regularly evaluate the effectiveness of the Participatory Defense Hub and be open to feedback from participants and stakeholders. Continuously assess the impact of the program and make adjustments as needed to better serve the community and achieve the goals of the initiatives. I think that's so important. Particularly if this is a new agenda and a new effort, the core team is constantly looking at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and adjusting accordingly. I believe by following these recommendations, the odds will significantly increase of you empowering families. Again, I say it again, I put this in there purposely, empowering families and communities to advocate for justice and systemic change in the criminal justice system, and you thoroughly supporting a participatory defense hub. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if anyone have any questions about anything I shared with you. And thank you for the time. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll just really quickly say thank you so much to the 3 presenters. And I know Julie will bring us back with everybody else at the end when time for questions happening.
Thanks, Nick. And thank you everyone. That was really great and interesting. And I wish we had hours to ask lots of questions and learn more. This is really wonderful. All right. Our third presentation today, our final one, is from Estelle Yim. Estelle's pronouns are they and them, and Estelle will be talking about digital literacy services and programs for patrons and re-entry. And a very short bio of Estelle. Estelle is Yim is the ALA Digital Literacy Fellow for the Expanding Information Access for Incarcerated People Initiative, based in San Francisco Public Library's Jail and Reentry Services, and in coordination with the American Library Association. Their presentation will provide an overview of ongoing research into the specific gaps in digital and technological services to formerly incarcerated people and the possibilities for public libraries to address them through trauma-informed, restorative, and abolitionist practices and programming. So Estelle, I could turn it over to you.
Hi, it's nice to be here with everyone. I just want to make sure that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Great. Cool. I'm really excited to be here today, especially closing out this entire summit. Again, my name is Estelle Yim, my pronouns are they, them, and I'm here to share some of my ongoing research as the ALA Digital Literacy Fellow with San Francisco Public Library's Expanding Information Access for Incarcerated People initiative. My role in this project is to research and prototype ways for libraries to support people who are in reentry and to develop their digital literacy skills. I'm in the early stages of identifying public libraries that will participate as pilot sites for collaborative programs that aim to support the information needs and tech skills of people in the process of reentry. These pilots will build upon various other successful library programs, and some of which I will be sharing with you today. Our goal is to grow each library's capacity to provide localized resources to their patrons and to facilitate community partnerships with reentry organizations. Hopefully, these programs can also serve as models for libraries across the country that will encourage them to develop their own efforts and advocacy in supporting formerly incarcerated patrons. I'm extremely grateful to have the opportunity to share this work in this space, and I really appreciate you being here today. To start, here are some key terms and notes on language. The ALA Digital Literacy Task Force defines digital literacy as the ability to use information and communication technologies, or ICTs, to find, evaluate, create, and communicate information that requires both cognitive and technical skills. I want to emphasize the National Digital Inclusion Alliance's suggestion to be mindful of how the language of literacy versus illiteracy can be prescriptive and to favor asset-based language when possible, such as digital skills or readiness. Digital equity is a condition in which all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity for civic and cultural participation, employment, lifelong learning, and access to essential services. Digital inclusion refers to the activities that ensure all individuals and communities have access to ICTs, and the NDIA specifically names access to digital literacy training as an essential component. The digital divide is the gap between those who have affordable access, skills, and support to effectively engage online and those who do not. It's influenced by the embedded systems of racism and capitalism, which work together to disadvantage Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people living with low or no income, people with disabilities, people living in rural areas, and older adults, as well as, of course, people whose lives are impacted by incarceration. I want to also interrogate the language of the digital divide by reframing it as digital division. This is to situate the divide as a non-static consequence of an active and flexible process of division, one that is directed by actors and stakeholders that have a vested interest in maintaining systems of oppression, including incarceration. Reentry is the process of returning to society after leaving prison or jail. Accordingly, reentry services can include local and state resources that support people in reentry, such as social services, community organizations, and advocacy groups. Jeannie Austin and Emily Jacobson, hi Jeannie, identify patron-centered services as those that incorporate feedback and suggestions from library patrons with the professional expertise offered by staff. While they situate this approach for in-jail library services, I believe that this framework is valuable to library reentry as well because it proposes an intervention in the carceral logics that often play into services for system-impacted patrons. The carceral narratives of rehabilitation, which prioritizes individual and psychological behavioral change, and recidivism, which measures the rates and chances of reincarceration, are dehumanizing in how they assume the inevitability of imprisonment in response to people's ways of living, both psychosocial and material. The prison industrial complex abolition is defined by the abolitionist organization Critical Resistance as a political vision with the goal of eliminating imprisonment, policing, and surveillance in favor of creating lasting alternatives to punishment. We as library workers grounded in abolition must avoid reproducing carceral language and logic. In this work, I don't rely on a cause and effect evaluation of increased levels of digital literacy being a necessary facet of reducing the chances of being reincarcerated. As Austin and Jacobson explain, literacy-based narratives situate librarians as offering redemption through information access. However, this access is often to materials that predominantly reflect the will of the carceral system, which treats policing and incarceration as an impetus towards enculturation into white, middle class, and heteronormative ways of being. During my internship with San Francisco Public Library's Jail and Reentry Services, I answered letters from incarcerated patrons through the Reference by Mail program. Many of these letters concerned reentry needs, so much so that a fellow intern and I ended up creating a resources checklist to send to patrons that they could fill out and send back in future letters. We even had to limit the number of topics that people could request because there's only so much information that we were able to fit into our letters. On the right is a word cloud of any item or assistance asked for by participants on parole in the Immediate Access Technology program at Queens Public Library, which I'll be talking more about later. As you can see, employment, housing, transportation, and identification documents are some of the most dire things that people express needing support with. Digital skills are thus essential to people's ability to access these needs, as many social services are moving online and away from paper documents, applications, and advertisements. When I worked as a computer assistant at Los Angeles Public Library, application workshops for online Section 8 housing and the Affordable Connectivity programs had lines out the door. This extends to government services for documentation requests. In almost all online cases, providing an email address or a phone number is necessary to even start, and having either is hardest for people in reentry who might not have the time or the resources to access computers or phones to use. We can also identify how digital skills are increasingly necessary for patrons in reentry to take full advantage of library resources. I had a striking interaction with an older man at a parole and community team, or PACT, meeting in downtown Los Angeles last month. He had told me that after 30 years of incarceration, his brother had given him a smartphone that he had no idea how to use. It took almost 10 minutes for him to fill out a paper library card application because he was struggling to find his email, phone number, and the address of the transitional home he was staying in. I even had to correct some of the information that he had written down after double checking. We ended up identifying all of the library branches that had computer assistants near his transitional home on a map that he took with him. Alongside thanking me for my help, though, he constantly apologized for the time he needed and expressed a lot of shame and embarrassment about his confusion, and he often moralized and judged himself, even stating hesitation at the idea that he might need too much help that the library computer aides would lose patience for. In addition to the structural and systemic barriers to digital access, there are other dynamics at play for people in reentry's use of technology. Technology use is not simply based on a skill set or the quality of instruction. It's also based on what feelings people bring to their own learning. One of the greatest indicators of successful digital readiness is actually confidence. As my story from the PACT meeting shows, formerly incarcerated people in need of tech support and guidance have a lot of shame around their difficulties. This means that programs and services must be holistic and trauma-informed and center their humanity so as to strengthen not just skills, but also independence, self-efficacy, and a desire to learn. Another affective response to technology that many people in reentry express is anxiety about surveillance of their technology use, which is unsurprising given their experiences of incarceration. Even after release, people are monitored through practices like GPS location tracking, constant parole check-ins, and assessments of their reentry process. People also express concerns that online records of their incarceration may affect their ability to reintegrate into their communities. Accordingly, digital skills instructions must incorporate navigating privacy concerns, safe internet use, and secure technology. We all use technology as a means to be in community with one another. Through phone calls, video calls, messaging, the way we communicate now transcends time and space. For many people in reentry, staying connected to family and friends is especially valuable as they're returning home from extreme isolation from their communities. For example, interviews with unhoused patrons at Boston Public Library reported that the library's hotspot lending program made it possible for them to be in touch with each other, to find each other, and to sustain intimate and emotional relationships. This is important to note because of the correlation between housing insecurity and reentry. In 2019, it was found that 70% of unhoused individuals in California reported a history of incarceration. As such, we shouldn't just focus on people's material needs, but also on their social and emotional needs by supporting reintegration into their communities. From my own experiences and from conversations with researchers, organizers, and other librarians, one of the biggest barriers to finding helpful information is the obscurity of it. This is hard enough to navigate as trained information workers. A lot of the information is now online and can change without warning or announcement. Prison systems also operate extremely differently by state, and jails operate differently by county. This means that we ourselves must be familiar with the carceral landscapes in which we work, as well as to stay connected and up to date with what is available in our communities for system-impacted patrons. With all of this background of digital landscapes in the carceral system, my work is inspired by the countless other creative reentry service programs around the country, and I want to share just a few examples. Fresh Start at Your Library in New Jersey was a program that worked with individuals in reentry. It offered one-on-one guidance from social workers who assisted with job searches, applications, and resumes, provided computer training and ESL classes, as well as library resources related to reentry. The Immediate Access Technology Reentry program that I mentioned earlier was at Queens Public Library and designed for people on parole. Participants were given phones that had 5 months of prepaid data and were encouraged to return to the library for tech literacy guidance. It supported a cohort size of 25 people for 5 months with 3 to 4 staff members, and it was paired with virtual library programming on topics like housing, education, mental health, financial literacy, and justice that was even shared within the prison. While the Bridge at Main in San Francisco Public Library is not explicitly a program for digital reentry skills, it is a literacy and learning center that also offers support for individuals returning home. I'm including it here because SFPL now hosts parole and community team meetings in its main branch, which has streamlined people's access to the Bridge by signing people up for no questions asked library cards during the meetings and encouraging people to simply go upstairs for support when they're ready. The Digital Navigators and Technology Education Program in Kansas is not a library-led program, but it naturally found its way to the library because of how accessible the space was for participants. It's a weekly session program that teaches introductory, intermediate, and advanced technology skills, specifically for women in reentry. More than 100 participant certificates have been issued, and most have attributed their successes in finding employment to this program. It has been sustained by a train-the-trainer model, in which former participants are now the ones who lead the workshops. Finally, Skill-Ready workshops are led at the Charles County Detention Center Library, which operates as a branch of the Charles County Public Library system. Their classes facilitated by CCPL staff that focuses on supporting digital literacy skills and workforce readiness for returning citizens. These programs are offered on a routine basis and cover topics like resume writing, digital skills, and how to use free database resources and more. To synthesize these examples as models, I want to highlight some best practices for creating digital reentry services that are identified by Jill Anderson, Neely Ness, and Diego Sandoval Hernandez. First, appropriate staffing and assessment of capacity are essential to a successful program. Patron-centered services are dependent on staff's ability to sustain them. 2, establish clear instructions that are considerate of patrons' varying experiences with technology. Providing hands-on or video walkthroughs are ideal, especially if they can be accessed independently. 3, provide space for feedback and collaborative evaluation. Patron-centered services should prioritize participant assessments, their willingness to offer feedback, as well as whether or not they even recommend the services to others. 4, have clear policies and take the time to explain them. People are understanding when expectations and changes are communicated properly. 5, meet people where they are. Limitations around transportation, childcare, disability, and parole are just some examples of daily considerations that should be taken into account to maximize patrons' abilities to participate. And finally, provide holistic staff training or resources on dealing with the emotional aspects of this work, and hold space for each other to offer and seek advice. Finally, I would like to situate all of this research in the ultimate goal of abolition, a world without prisons. This is essential grounding for this work because it exposes the fundamental irony of reentry services. They can only exist as long as jails and prisons do, and so we must work to make them redundant. Given how the carceral system operates in the US, reentry services have the potential to reduce opportunities for the state to recriminalize people after they are decarcerated. Access to things like housing, employment, food, shelter, healthcare, community, and more are non-negotiable needs for every person. Yet when these things aren't in reach, people are forced to live in conditions that make them most susceptible to policing, surveillance, and incarceration. If you recall the word cloud shown previously, these are the very things that people in reentry express the greatest need for. Furthermore, the fact of prior incarceration creates sometimes impenetrable restrictions for people to have these needs met, such as explicit exclusion from job opportunities. Thus, in Renee Bird's words, an abolitionist reentry praxis must be grounded in the everyday struggles of those who are most infected by mass imprisonment. Furthermore, our metric for successful reentry services should not be based on a logic that sustains carcerality based on normative expectations. Rather, people should have access to reentry services simply because they need and deserve the means to live safe, fruitful, and fulfilling lives in community. We are here at the summit because we believe that libraries can play a role as life-affirming institutions that render prisons obsolete. And as all of these presentations have proven, that's because in many ways they already do. Now that we've reached the end of this summit, I hope that you have all been inspired by the presentations here. If you'd like to connect with me, I will drop my email in the chat. And I want to shout out San Francisco Public Library's Jail and Reentry Services team. Hi, guys. I'm really honored to be working alongside you. And I encourage everyone to check out the initiative's website, which I will also drop in the chat. And I also want to thank all of the library workers, researchers, and organizers that have met with me for this project. The stories and dreams that they've shared with me have had an immeasurable impact on my thinking and my goals as a librarian. Thank you again for your time. And here are some of the references that I used during this presentation.
Thank you. That was great. All of this has been great. I just want to mention that there's actually one more part of the summit, that there's an event after this one that starts at 4:10 Central Time. And it's a film and then a Q&A after that, in case you want to stick around, just to let you know. So we have some time for Q&A, and I'm looking at the questions, a lot of chat. Wait, let me make sure there's something I'm missing. Okay. Yes, okay, I did. Right, okay. All right, the Q&A, I realized that the challenge for me, I think that the first one is for those of us interested in following in your footsteps and creating such partnerships, where should we start our learning? It says Rebecca Black is going to answer this question live. Is that why it says that? But anyway, I think that's for our first speaker. I realized that some of these, I'm not sure who they're geared toward. Well, some of them I can tell. Okay, so to go back to the beginning, Lisa, do you want to, I think that was for you. Are you there? Maybe not.
Looks like Lisa, I think, might have dropped off.
Okay, all right, so I'll go to the next one. Thank you. Did you find, this is like two questions from Danielle Noble, sort of the similar questions. Did you find a large number of people with different abilities being criminalized by the legal system, or are you able to provide supports for persons of different abilities? And Danielle, is that directed towards somebody specific? Is Danielle still here? Sorry, I'm trying to, no? People are asking questions and then disappearing. Is that what's happening? All right. I don't know, does that sound, anybody want to answer that? Because I don't know if that was directed to a specific person.
I'll answer it if you
Okay.
guys don't mind.
Sure.
So yeah, certainly. I think that there's so many different abilities of people and levels, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the right proper language, right, all the time to use, but that's what happens, because we often criminalize a lot more things in our society than we should, and that results to different ability levels and different people being incarcerated. So then that also makes a challenge harder. Like when I was incarcerated, I faced that just on a daily level. I worked in the schools, so I was a tutor, and different learning levels and whatnot, and having to work with that. But then also coming out and the work, particularly for the Participatory Defense Hub, you have to take sometimes these legal thought processes and theories that I don't even understand, and I went through it, but how do you package that down and break it down to a bite-sized piece of information that someone who maybe didn't finish school, or who doesn't read very well, or maybe has a limited English proficiency. So that is a challenge that's there. And what I love about our team, and I think I seen somebody comment like, wow, 10 people, but we have so many people that some of them are special education teachers. Some of them, like me, I speak Spanish, you know, and a few other of our team members are bilingual. And so it's great to have a large team and a great coalition because we can serve people and meet them where they're at. So that, yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Great, thank you. And anybody else have anything they want to add to that? No? All right. And then question, this is, let's see. Did you experience pushback? Oh, yeah, I'm on you. Okay. Did you experience pushback concerns from library staff when starting the Participatory Defense Hub? One of you want to take that?
Yeah, I suppose I could speak to that. Thanks, Julianne. And definitely if any of the Hub core members have anything they want to say on this, by all means, but fortunately, the answer is no, not really. I mean, we've been so just to be clear, we've been working towards this for years. We only actually started, launched the service, and they've been coordinating these meetings only since early January of this year. So it's still a new initiative. You know, as with anything, trying to, well, I mean, Diego talked about the principles of sort of like humanizing, empathizing, and organizing, right? So trying to, when you say we're going to bring a bunch of like ex-incarcerated people who've been convicted of like very, you know, significant convictions into our library once a week, like you can potentially expect to, you know, your organization, you can potentially expect something to be brought up in terms of concern. So what you got to do then is like, I mean, people are just scared. Nobody knows. And I mean, so few people in this society seem to know people connected with the system. And that varies depending on socio-demographics, depending on your race, depending on all sorts of things, what zip code you know, you live in. You might only know people who are connected to the system, or you might know absolutely no one connected to the system. So anyways, that's all to say that as we were doing this, one, I tried to communicate a lot about the fact that we were doing it. Maybe I think one of the more important things that we did though was we had an all staff meeting where I just invited a few of the crew of the core members of the Hub to come and speak, and instead like 9 of them came in or something. And you know, it's one thing to say, I mean, it's exactly what we're trying to do with the Hub for the people who are facing cases, right? Instead of just having a rap sheet, instead of a judge or a jury just looking at someone as this is what they're accused of first-degree intentional homicide, whatever it is. Same principle here. Instead of you know, saying, hey, we're going to bring people in who have X, Y, or Z on their record, bring the actual human beings in, let them speak to your staff, and let the staff, like that's for people who haven't had a lot of experience with that, that's a life-altering thing. You can't walk away after you've met Dant'e Cottingham and think the same things that you thought about the system and about people who have been through the system before. So I'll just sort of leave it at that. But yes, fortunately, we haven't had, in my experience, a lot of pushback from the staff.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to just add a little bit something to that. On the back end of that, so some of the other characteristics of the Hub is that we have what you call court observances, where we, as a team, we go into the courtrooms of those that have the capacity and availability to support men and women as they are navigating the court process, like literally in the courtroom. You have a team of people with paper and pens that's looking at the procedures, and if there's anything that looks off, or if there's something that we think needs to be highlighted, there's a couple of lawyers that are associated with us as well that we can question and ask questions about. So we support people that way. And as a directly impacted person that's went through the system and has gone through the system alone and has turned around and looked and seen no one supporting me, I can attest to the fact that it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing to turn around and see people that support you. And that's not to say anything other than to say that everybody deserves justice, like whatever that looks like in different situations, and that support there. And I can attest to this personally. I've heard the judges. I've been in the courtroom and been asked by the judge, like why are you here to support the defense or the prosecution? No, I'm just here to observe. It matters. I've felt the tension in the room. I've felt that energy, so it definitely matters. The other part of the PDN that I would like to highlight is that there are several members. There's a couple members that are certified peer support specialists, including myself. So one of the things that we do as well in certain situations, like Diego said, we meet the need. We meet people where they are, and we meet the needs of where they're at. So in some situations, part of that need includes walking with men and women once they've been bailed out, walking with them and just supporting them through that process. And that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have a very diverse array of a core team, where people, like Diego said, people that speak different languages, got different experiences, and can connect with different people. This whole agenda is to connect with people, make sure people feel, as much as we possibly can, feel supported, and there are a large part of the community that simply do not know what the court system is all about. So we want to turn on that switch. We want to turn on that light switch as people navigating. And again, as a directly impacted person, I wish that when I was going through the court system back when I was a juvenile back in 1995, there was a group of people there that was there to support my mom as she sat in that courtroom by herself in darkness. So just to add that part to what we do and why we do it. We are in the beginning stages, so we're in the process of growing and developing. I outlined some of the principles that, from me as a person that was in an early stage, to kind of outline some of the things that I think would help another facility or organization or library that wants to create the process. And I've sent them to a couple of people. If anybody else want the principles, I can send them to you. And my email's there. You ever want to ask any questions, any way I can help, obviously I'm willing to help. So I just want to add that part to it.
Thank you very much. Let's see, I'm trying to Q&A that we need to end, but Janet Drew has just commented, frustrating at court, sort of in line with what you were just talking about, both of you. So I think that fits with that. Any other comments you want to just, let's see, add? We should just end, I guess. So we can go on in 7 minutes and start the film. All right, thank you so much, everybody, and thank you to the people who attended this, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Personally, I spent 7 years as a jail and prison librarian myself, so I've spent 7 years really angry, actually, all the time. It was just made me so angry. So I really appreciate the work that's being done now, and I'm sure things are better than they were. All right, thank you, everyone, and please stick around. And the film will start in now 6 minutes, and it's called it's our closing session. It's called Reimagining Safety. It's a film screening, and then Q&A at 4:10 Central Time in the same Zoom room. So we encourage you to be there for that too. I think some people are just coming in, so that's probably why they're here. All right, thank you. And I'm supposed to put up a slide, but I don't know.
You know what, Julie, don't worry about it, because I think we have to test we want to make sure all the tech's working.
Okay.
So I think we're good. And if we need to put it up, we'll put it up. Thank you.
Because I don't know where it is. So.
It's okay. Thanks, too.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick test.
Yeah.